Guys, it's a flawless 10 out of 10. There's no need for me to explain anything. I don't have to justify it in any way. Just, that's it. This movie's perfect. Bye! Okay, I guess you're expecting a little bit more than that. Films with dragons seem to come and go with varying degrees of quality, and as I mentioned in my video about us needing more hero types of dragons, most of the time these guys always seem to get lumped into the evil villain category, because all dragons are bad according to mainstream media. Blech. But then, once in a blue moon, when the stars are aligned and Saturn smiles down upon the holy, we actually get a protagonist dragon, and in this case it was with Sisu in Disney's Raya and the Last Dragon. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I've not had an experience quite like this since How to Train Your Dragon 3 back in 2019. Remember life back when we weren't in a pandemic? Yeah, me neither. Needless to say, the conclusion of the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy left me in a very vulnerable and emotional state, which is funny because Raya and the Last Dragon has that exact same effect. Of course, I won't deny that there has to be some sense of bias that factors into that, but the movie must have done a lot right for me to have bought a Sisu plushie right afterwards. Also, props to the guys at the Disney store for spelling Cicadan right. I can only imagine how awkward it would have been to put this on there. And that leads me into my general thoughts on this film. It does do a lot right. The animation is jaw-dropping and gorgeous, as to be expected with a Disney animation, and the character designs and world build is also super well done. Well, except the baby and the three monkeys, but I'll get into that soon. But regardless, I love the way the world looks in this. Also, I found the scenes where Raya is riding tuk-tuk through the desert to be oddly satisfying, and I think that's because of the sound design, which is also pretty great. And speaking of sound, oh my god, the soundtrack to this film is an absolute banger. But technical aspects aside, if there's one thing I could say about this film that holds it back from being exceptional, it's the story. The movie is not perfect and has quite a few flaws, but we'll analyze that as we go through it. In terms of characters, Raya and Sisu were definitely my favourites. One of my biggest concerns when seeing the trailer for this was that I feared it was going to be yet another film that couldn't help shoving SJW politics in your face. But I'm so glad it avoided that because for one, Raya is a great example of how to write a female character without talking down to your audience like they're a bunch of morons. She's a flawed but determined character who's struggling with trust, which is the whole theme of the movie. She wants to do the right thing after what happened with the Droon, but can't because of the divide and mistrust between everyone in the world. And it's only through being with Sisu is she finally able to trust Namaari in the end. That's brilliant. I hope you lot are listening to this, you need to be taking notes. The only other concerns I had with the trailer were just about the story and how it would play out, and of course the baby character, but also Sisu herself, because many looked at her design and just claimed she's Elsa but a dragon. But after seeing the film, not only can I confirm that Sisu is not Elsa, there's literally no evidence for that, it's a dumb theory, stop, no. But Sisu easily ended up being one of the best characters for me, perhaps the best. And yeah, I know that's definitely the whole dragon bias speaking again, but honestly, I absolutely adore Sisu. She's such a fun, positive, and super quirky character, and although some of her humor falls flat for me, it doesn't drag on for too long. Get it? And the more serious and down-to-earth moments with her more than make up for it. As good as the dragons in How to Train a Dragon are, I think we need more, this probably isn't the right word, but anthropomorphic types like Sisu, because they absolutely nailed the animation and the way she moves in this, and it's something I need more of in modern animation. Oh, and did I mention she's adorable? But speaking of characters, we've now run into one of the flaws with Raya and the Last Dragon. There's just too many characters taking up the main roster, and don't get me wrong, I totally understand why they're there. As we go through the film, we pick up a character from each of the 5 sections of the world. Raya is from Heart, the Chef Kid is from Tail, Weirdly Agile Baby and the Minions are from Talon, Big Chungus is from Spine, and Namaari is from Fang. But the problem is, there isn't much time to develop them all. The movie is an hour and 47 minutes, which is already longer than most animated kids films. The Lion King, the good one anyway, is 1 hour and 28 minutes, and the first How to Train a Dragon is an hour and 38 minutes, and so on. Not that the duration of a film dictates the quality of it or anything, but this movie tries to do a lot within a short space of time, which is probably why it seems to absolutely fly by, especially in the first 20 to 30 minutes. So I guess now's the point where I start breaking down the plot, so spoilers from here on, by the way. If you don't want to hear spoilers and you're still planning on watching this film for yourself, then skip to this point in the video for my final thoughts. So the movie opens with some exposition, which is actually quite necessary to give us some context to the world, and we learn about how the dragons sacrifice themselves to destroy the Droon. And I actually really like how the antagonist for this story isn't something that has a face. The Droon are nightmarish in their design, and really scary when you think about it. But I'm still quite confused about their origins and how they came to be. Sisu explains later that they're born from human discord, but that doesn't really explain the specifics of it. Are they like magic? How did the first one manifest and come to be? Cutting straight to 500 years later, Raya becomes part of the family guard, and Chief Benja, her father, explains his hopes of bringing back Kamandra, which is what the world was before it was divided. Upon first watching the movie, I thought all these guys were at war with each other, but it just seems like they really don't trust each other, especially Heart it seems. Raya meets Namaari for the first time, and I kid you not, they use the term dragon nerd to describe themselves. This movie was made for me. The inciting incident takes place, and something I noticed upon rewatching here is that Chief Benja, who is trying to put his trust in the other people, is echoing the same act that Sisu and Namaari have at the end, even with the crossbow shot, which I thought was a nice subtlety. One of the things that bothers me though is the consistency of the Droon turning people to stone, because most of the time anyone that gets hit by the Droon takes this position where they're stood still and they have their hands out, but this doesn't happen with everyone, which is a little bit frustrating for consistency's sake. So 6 years pass and Raya finally finds Sisu hanging out in a shipwreck, and once again I'm a bit unsure as to how exactly she was summoned because it was never really established how to wake up Sisu, but her first scene with Raya is an absolute treat to watch. Wait, where the hell did you find a dragon-sized hat and cape? It's also at this point in the film that I realized this is the movie that I've been waiting for a long time. To finally have like an anthropomorphic type dragon and a human character go on this buddy adventure sort of thing, it's just something that you never really see much of, so I'm really glad this movie exists, just for that. This part is also just adorable. What isn't cute though are the toot and booms, like they just kinda exist, I guess. I mean, they're good for like a plot device to escape Namaari, but at the end of the day they're just a fart joke, and it's not very clever. Then we meet our first of 6 main side characters, Captain Boone, who's just kind of to me. I just think he should have been maybe an older character, what with there already being another child character in the main roster coming up, but he's okay I guess. The dragon graveyard is a nice moment, especially for Namaari who still shows respect for the dragons. The scene plays out with no dialogue and just the music. It's subtle and I can really appreciate it. Another thing I really like about this film is that it has these kind of chapters every time we go to a new place, which is pretty nice. What's not so nice though is the time in the movie when we're in Talon, because I'll say this right here, Talon is easily the weakest chapter in this story. I love the aesthetic of Talon and how it's an entire town on water and all the colors and everything, but this is where the movie stumbles a lot for me. For starters, we have the Con Baby and the Ongis, who are easily the worst characters for me. They're just annoying and serve little to no function on the plot. Like, how is a baby this agile? It breaks my suspension of disbelief a little too much. Not only that, but the twist of the new chief being this old lady didn't feel all that great either, and Sisu saying they had gem pieces out loud felt more like an obligation for the script rather than a natural progression. It's all a bit too clunky for my liking, but hey, at least we got high as a kite flower dude.
I'm Chai, the flower guy.
Anyway, after getting more plot in Fang, we're now on our way to Spine, and this is where we get the only hint or explanation in the movie as to why the other dragons didn't come back. Raya believes they didn't return because humans didn't deserve them, and that's it. It's just an assumption, there's no real explanation, which is frustrating because I really wish they'd thought this out a bit more and given us a bit more to go off. On the bright side, however, Tong is a great addition to their team and is probably the best tag-along character out of all of them for me, and I genuinely can't tell if he has the best or worst line in this movie. Quote, "Your fear is like delectable nectar feeding the tum-tum of my soul." Oh my god. I love it, 10 out of 10. When we go back to Heart later on, I really appreciate that we get time dedicated to Sisu's point of view when she first got rid of the Droon. Something I found funny though was that, damn, Pengu got some cheeks, holy moly. but also that the other dragons don't have a single line of dialogue in the whole film. Maybe they'll have something to say in the sequel, who knows. But now we're getting towards the end of the movie, and I have to discuss a certain scene, more specifically the crossbow scene. So our heroes finally arrive in Fang and try to convince Namaari to give them the last gem piece, but Namaari shares her mother's fear that once everything goes back to normal, Fang will still be blamed for causing it all. This leads to Namaari pulling a crossbow from out of nowhere. You could say she hid it behind this rock here since she did show up to that area first, but the movie never clarifies this, so I can only assume. Anyway, Sisu tries to reassure Namaari since she knows she's conflicted, but Raya still doesn't trust her and attacks Namaari, causing Sisu to get shot. Now, I've heard this scene tends to confuse some people and they blame Namaari entirely, but I've seen this film at least 3 times now and it does make sense. When Raya hits the crossbow with her sword, it causes the trigger to be pulled. So yes, Namaari is right when they're fighting afterwards and she says that Raya is just as much to blame for Sisu dying as she is. But the point is, they're both to blame for this. Namaari shouldn't have brought a crossbow and Raya should have trusted Sisu. It does make sense. So with Sisu now gone, all the water dries up and we get a very intense fight scene that's made even more tense by the sound design. The blades sound very real here and it really does feel like they're in serious combat. The only thing that slightly bothers me here is Tong explaining that Raya is in a fit of rage. I thought that was quite unnecessary, like, yes movie, I can see that she is in a fit of rage and she wants to kill Namaari. And then the ground starts to crumble away here, and once again I just have to assume it does that because Fang is a city on water and the foundations aren't stable without water. And then we get some truly nightmarish visuals with the drones surrounding them in the dark. It genuinely feels hopeless. Something that I really like here as well is that you expect Raya to be the one to solve everything by putting the gem together, but not only is it a cool difference that Namaari is the one to do it, but it wouldn't make sense if Raya did it anyway because the gem's power revolves around trust, which Raya and the others have to show to Namaari. So then they boom the drone away, and if this isn't the definition of happy ending, I don't know what is. The dragons returning over the waterfalls is very visually pleasing and is just such a glorious moment, but as much as I love that they bring back Sisu, they never really establish that dragons can just revive each other. To fix this, I think maybe it would have been better and made more sense to use the dragon gem as a MacGuffin to revive Sisu instead, but oh well. Now we get into my favourite visual of the entire film, the moment I've been waiting for the whole movie. This dragon hug right here cured my depression. It's absolutely glorious. You know what? It's so godlike that we need to play that again. And again. Honestly, I could watch this all day, I swear. So Raya reunites with her father and everyone reunites with those they'd lost. And that's the end of Raya and the Last Dragon. While it certainly has its flaws and the story definitely could have been polished a bit more, the film holds a special place in my heart. I just really wish they would have elaborated on or further explained some of the mechanics of the world, but the positives definitely outweigh the negatives here, and I will be rewatching this film in the future for sure. If I had to rate this film on a pure enjoyment and emotional level, this movie is a 9 for me, but in terms of a film that I would look at in a critical mindset, it sits comfortably as a 7 out of 10, maybe even an 8. So then, that's my thoughts on Raya and the Last Dragon. I'm not gonna lie, I kinda struggled to make this one because I had no idea how I was gonna structure it in terms of a review. That and the editing software I use, Magix Pro 2014, decided to corrupt the file halfway through making it. If it wasn't for the backup files, this video wouldn't exist, so all hail backup files. Oh, and before I go, I just want to say thank you to Galaxy the Cheese Master who drew this awesome fan art. It looks absolutely amazing and I love it, thank you very much. Be sure to head on over to DeviantArt and give it a fave, I'll leave a link to it in the description below. And on that note, I'm Cicaden, please like, subscribe, share this video on MSN Messenger or something, and I'll see you in the next crazy video. Bye! Well, it certainly has its flaws, and the Dory, oh my god. In terms of characters, Raya and Sisu, that's not her name. Anyway, after getting more plot and spine, we're now on our way to, no, not a spine, Fang.
Best friends forever!